Welcome to Carl and Heather Present,
the podcast where we dive into the insights, challenges, and humor of being married to someone who is nothing like you.
Are you ready?
Let's go.
Oh, don't you know it's Carl and Heather Present Marriage Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to Carl and Heather Present. We're coming to you from the state-of-the-art Carl and Heather Present Studios, located in the sleepy suburb of Music City, Franklin, Tennessee, featuring the latest in microphone technology and the wisest of marriage wisdom. Today is part 2 of a 2-part parenting series. Should I get out of that voice?
Maybe. I don't know. I'm kind of liking it.
Today is part 2 of a 2-part parenting series. So if you missed last week's exciting episode, Parenting as a Team, you can go back and listen.
Okay.
Or you should go back and listen.
You should listen. You should listen.
Should listen.
We say that.
We say that a lot.
I think that was great, babe.
Yeah.
I think there might be a new career trajectory.
Okay, one of the things that I hope happens as a byproduct of this podcast is that someone hears it and they're like, we want that guy to do our movie trailer.
Or what about you could be the new voice for Allstate or the new voice for, one of those biggies.
Yeah.
That oh my gosh, who, and people would say, I know that voice from somewhere.
That guy.
Where is that from? Okay, anyway, focus.
Well, I would like to say that let's take this podcast in a direction that supports my voice acting ambitions.
Okay, is that what we're here for?
That's
we are
part
here for you. No. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, check in. How's it going?
It's going great.
We've had some travel lately.
We have been traveling a lot. So a couple of weeks ago, we were in Napa Valley, California, in beautiful Sonoma. We stayed at the Silverado Resort.
Yes.
I loved it out there.
It was beautiful. It was a little cooler and rainier than normal.
Yeah.
But we were still able to see just some beautiful vineyards.
And we're not even wine people.
No.
We don't drink wine or super into it. But it's just the whole, the restaurants and the food and the landscape and everything like that. If you want to go to a pretty place, man, it was awesome.
It's beautiful. And then this past weekend,
we were in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, which is some place we'd never been to Napa before. We've been to Myrtle Beach maybe hundreds of times.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And it, for me, so my family grew up and every summer we went to Myrtle Beach for vacation because we're from the East Coast and that's just where you go. And it made me think of all things fried.
Yeah.
Airbrush t-shirts.
Heck yeah.
The Magic Attic. Right.
If you danced at the Magic Attic, drop us a comment because that's a pretty big deal.
That's if you know, you know. And if you don't, there's just no way to explain it.
Yeah. Myrtle Beach is awesome. And we have some of the most influential people in our whole family. Robert and Eva live
some of our
down in
dearest
Myrtle
friends.
Beach.
Yep.
Hey, if you like what you hear on the podcast, please check it out. Please rate it, like it, subscribe to it. Leave a comment either on Facebook or social media or YouTube. All that stuff helps us so much. And let us know where you're listening from. If you're out in California or if you're at Myrtle Beach or somewhere in between, let us know where you're listening from. We do pray every Monday for marriages. We would love the opportunity to pray for you about your prayer requests. So hi@carlandheather.com is just an email address. You can communicate with us there. It is 100% discreet. We will not talk about your prayer request on the air. We will not, make anything of it publicly. However, Heather and I are praying for marriages on every Monday. And so we would love to know how we can best pray for the folks who are just like us, working on their marriage, trying to make things work, but acknowledging the reality that we're very different people and it's very complicated. It's so much easier said than done. We need to pray for each other. So how can we pray for you?
That's
Carl and Heather, hi@carlandheather.com.
Yeah. And as
a place to do that.
A couple who has been the recipient of lots of prayers. We've had faithful prayers in our lives who've checked in with us throughout the years. I remember Jim Wright every Wednesday call you and say, how can I pray for you today? I'm praying for you. And it's just meant the world to us. And I think we're realizing that that's a power, an untapped power that we can all tap into. And so we would love to do that. It is an honor. So you mentioned last week, we talked about parenting as a team.
Right.
And how that's the best way that we can set up our kids for success.
Okay.
Okay. It's not a guaranteed path, but if you don't parent as a team, you can risk your kids becoming a wedge in your marriage. We talked about that.
All right.
You can create an unstable environment for them they won't thrive. You just create an unstable environment.
Yeah.
And people don't thrive in unstable environments.
Right.
Right. And then the third thing is that it sets them up to repeat those same unhealthy patterns in their own marriage.
So we got to parent as a team.
We do. And the gospel offers hope for all of us. And really what we the culmination of that is that it offers a way for husbands and wives to do that together, to move forward as a team. But today, we're talking about our playbook.
Our playbook.
Yeah.
Do we have a team name?
Team Carty.
Team Carty.
Team Carty,
That's
yeah.
a little on the nose.
It is, but,
Could it maybe have a little more zing to it?
a little zing and pep. I don't know.
Team Carther?
I don't know. No.
Like Carl and Heather?
Yeah. I think
Carther.
Carty. We don't really have any we have some friends that their combo name is Trapril, which I think is really cool, but we don't
great.
have that. We don't have that. But anyway, all right, Team Carty. And so today we want to talk about 5 plays using kind of that sports metaphor.
Yeah.
These are plays that we have
I like
in our
sports.
playbook, right?
Yeah.
5 plays that we have used throughout the years that have set our family up on a trajectory to win.
Okay. And it is important to use a sports metaphor. You try to choose the plays that you hope will win, that you hope will make your team win. That doesn't always guarantee winning outcomes. We talked a little bit about this in the previous episode, that, using that team metaphor, you parent as a team, but your kids are not your report card. So, and this isn't even a qualification. This is something that we all know and need to talk about.
Right.
Everything that you hope and dream will happen in your family is not going to happen. The outcomes that, everything that you thought it was going to be is 100% not going to be the way you planned it. And even if you do what we're doing, hey, let's get on the same team, let's play from the same playbook. Well, there just aren't any guarantees. However, I think a way of doing it is a lot better than a way of not doing it.
Right.
So having some intention, having some purpose, we say together on purpose, we're not together on accident. We are trying to set our kids up, trying to set each other up to win. So that's what these plays are about. There's some choices that we've made. We're doubling down on them. We're going all in on them.
Yeah.
And by faith, they'll work. So,
Right. Okay, so play number 1. Why don't you start us off?
Okay, play number 1 is church.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
Well, we actually had an episode about why church matters to your marriage. And I'll say this, it's actually been one of the least listened to episodes that we've put out. I'm curious about that because it might even be something that the title turns people off.
Yeah.
Or actually, I don't want to hear about that because I don't want to go there because I got church hurt or something like that. But for you and me, church and being a part of a faith community is at the center of our playbook. We are a church family. We go, we serve, and we do it as a family. You do it, I do it, our kids do it. And you can do it the way you want. The listeners out there, you can do it the way you want. But church is not something you consume.
Right.
It's something you make. It's not something you consume. It's something you make. So a lot of times, especially now, we are in a position where we look at church like, well, I'm going to get a little bit from this one and a little bit from that one. And I'm going to take what this, product has to offer me. We believe that a family that serves and worships together, that helps make church what it ought to be, is a family that's really growing closer to the heart of God. We're not just trying to get something for ourselves out of it. We're trying to contribute something to it because we're called to be members of the body of Christ. We're not called to consume like products. We're called to be members of the body of Christ, contributing members with our strengths that only our family can bring to it. And so we've decided, and we think it's a biblical choice, to put church as a huge part of our lives. Do you have church hurt?
Oh, yeah.
Are you nodding your head?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Do you think I have any?
For sure.
A lot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that it's not worth investing in? Like, you've hurt me in this marriage.
Right.
And I think now's a good time to bring a lot of that crap up.
Okay. Let's do it.
We've hurt each other. There's undoubtedly. Mm-hmm. I'm not quitting on you. You're not quitting on me. Mm-hmm. Same with church. There's a lot of church hurt out there, but like it or not, the body of Christ is the main vehicle through which Jesus distributes his love and care and mercy and grace. Mm-hmm. It's the hands and feet of Christ.
Right.
Then church has got to be a part of our playbook.
Yeah, I love that. And I also would say to the families who have like middle school and teenage kids and maybe use the argument, well, we don't make our kids go to church because we want them to choose to go to church. Did you make them eat carrots and peas and green beans when they were babies? Or did you just say, I'm sure you'd prefer sugar?
Yeah.
I'm sure you'd prefer candy. Oh, I'm sure you'd prefer looking at porn to watching something that's healthy for you. So I'm going to let you do what you prefer to do. Like, we don't drift north. And so if you're saying, well, I just don't want to be legalistic about it, habits help form your character. And so that is something that I think is okay to say, this is what we do. Sure, when they're grown and on their own, they can make a choice. But when you're living with me, one of the best gifts that both of our sets of parents gave us was to say, hey, we're going to church every week. And I'm so thankful for that. So that's the first thing.
That's the first one. The first play is church. What's the second play?
Second one is time. Time. We choose where we invest our time. And this one's a biggie because I think that right now more than ever, we have so many really good things we could say yes to. So many good things we could say yes to. So it's difficult to prioritize what's best for your family in some seasons because you've got so many things vying for your attention.
Yeah.
I will say this, though. We all have busy seasons, but if you find your busy season turning into a busy semester or a busy year or a busy several set of years, and that's from somebody who had, our kids were all like within a 5-year period. So I could see how that would be. But if you find that you're always saying, like, for years and years, your statement to everybody has been, well, we've just been so busy.
How you guys doing? Well, we've been so busy.
We're so busy. It might be time to evaluate your calendar and what you're saying yes to. It may be time to say no to travel sports and yes to more meals together. Sorry, moms. No NBA for your kids.
You've said that on this podcast before.
I have.
And I don't know. Ike's looking pretty good this season.
I know if your kid goes to the NBA, you're the exception, not the rule, right? And so I say that jokingly, tongue in cheek, but really it's that idea that like the family doesn't revolve around the kids. If it constantly revolves around the kids, then that's a problem. So for us, we prioritize meals together. It's something we felt like Jesus did with his followers. Yeah. And he met people at tables, around tables, at meals. And so we have meals together as a family consistently. We Sabbath together. And that sometimes means saying, no, I can't take you to this play date or this birthday party because I'm Sabbathing today. I'm taking rest from working today. And I'm intentionally doing that because God set that as a precedent for us in the Bible over and over again, not just once, but constantly. He talks about remembering the Sabbath because I think we need it.
Sometimes I feel like, I heard a guy talk about it like this, like when he orders coffee and they ask you don't drink coffee, so you don't understand this, but when you order coffee, sometimes they ask you if you want room for cream. And I say no to that person because I feel like they're going to shortchange me on the amount of coffee that they give me, even though I want cream.
Yeah.
I don't want room for it. I don't want you to impose what you think is enough room for my cream. Mm-hmm. But then what I end up doing is I fill this cup that's already got coffee in it, and I try to get as much cream in there as I can, but there's no margin in the cup anymore, and it spills out on my hands. And it's like, a life is very similar to that. We try to say, the Lord is trying to say, hey, you need to make room for me. You need to make room for stuff. And we're like, nah, no thanks. I don't want you to be in charge of that.
Right.
I want to fill it as full as I possibly can. And we believe that there is a whole, culture around us that's doing the same thing. And we believe that we'll get the benefits and blessings of not having any margin. And it ruins us. It wears us out. It burns us out.
Yeah, absolutely. And we set, like we said in our last episode, that sets them up to repeat the same thing.
Absolutely.
In their lives.
Yeah.
Our lives were full, no margin, dawn till dusk. We're going to do that same thing with our family. And then it's this crazy cycle that we got to get off of this crazy train. So we also love to give our kids experience over things. We give them experiences over tangible things. We think those things are important. And we want them to invest, and we'll talk just a second about this, but invest in things like jobs that make money, that enable them to pay bills, to give money away, to set them up for success as adults. So that's that. And then it kind of rolls right into this next one. Why don't you take it?
So the third thing that we'll talk about is parenting for character over outcomes. And okay, so what we mean by that is we're parenting for our kids to have character when they're adults. So what does an adult who has good character, what do they look like?
Okay.
Describe them for me.
Hard workers.
Okay.
They have a good work ethic.
Okay, that's a good adult.
Yeah.
This person works.
They're kind.
They're kind.
They contribute. They're not consumers. They're contributors.
Yeah.
They work to build things and to help create things. They tell the truth. They're good forgivers.
Yeah.
They practice that.
So if you described that as an adult person, I would say to you, man, that sounds like an awesome person. Maybe you should marry that person, or maybe you should be friends with that person, or maybe you should work for that person. It's something that might be a good boss. And so now a person gets to those kind of descriptors as an adult if somebody shows them or teaches them or trains them how to do that as a kid. And so we work on character building things. So it's like work ethic. Someone has a good work ethic. We want them to learn how to get that by giving them responsibility when they're a kid. Is it a big deal if they fail at a job that they worked hard on? It's less of a deal because the outcome, if I say, Oak, will you mow the grass? And he does a horrible job and the lines are all wrong. And I'm not going to fuss about him for that. If the outcome is not great, I can work on the outcome. But what I am going to fuss at him about is if I say, Oak, will you mow the grass? And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. Right. I'll say, I need you to do it because I want to build in you something. It doesn't matter if he becomes an expert landscaper. Maybe he does. I don't know. I don't care. I hope he becomes whatever it is. I hope he has a good work ethic when he does it. So things like that, even like grades. I mean, like you're way, way smarter in school than I was. And so grades are a huge thing for you.
Yeah.
I want the boys to work very hard. I don't want them to betray their own skill by being lazy.
Right.
If they try their best and they don't make straight A's, we can have a conversation about it.
Right.
How do you think... What happened on your way to making this D? Is it because you didn't try? Is it because you didn't invest? Is it because you didn't work? That's the problem. If you worked and tried and you invested and I saw you studying and I saw you reading and I heard you talking about, all your assignments to your mom and you made a D, well, that's an outcome, but you still did the thing that you needed to work. So that's what I'm talking about when I say parenting for character over outcomes. How do you teach somebody to be kind? You teach them how to bless somebody. You teach them how to speak to somebody in a kind way. When you hear them berating or tearing somebody or something down,
right? That's
what I'm listening for that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't care if they say like Riz and Skibbity and Ohio and things like that. I don't know what any of those things mean.
We don't know any of that stuff.
That sounds cool. I have a lot of Riz apparently. That's something that I've been told. And so that's good. But they learn to contribute to their community and they learn to serve people by just creating the opportunities for them to do it. Is it easy? Is it fun? Do you have to wake up earlier than other people sometimes? Yes. But that's a character investment.
Yeah.
And finally, just, telling the truth and practicing forgiveness. We taught our boys how to give and receive forgiveness, or offer and receive forgiveness. We always, the language of apology, we say that all the time.
Yeah.
How do you ask for forgiveness? Say 4 things.
Yeah.
I was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. What I should have done was, will you forgive me?
Right.
That's a
So
character
important.
outcome.
So important.
Yeah. That's character over outcomes.
The next one we're going to talk about is sex.
Sex.
Let's talk about sex.
Is this a vision drift?
This is not a vision drift, and this is PG for sure. But, we say that the world is happy to talk to your kids about sex. Absolutely. And they're going to do it. They're going to talk about it, whether you talk to your kids about it or not.
Actively talking to your kids about sex.
Absolutely.
That's right. The culture is got a megaphone for sex.
And so we wanted to jump on this one ahead of time. No pun intended. We want to jump on this one. Because I don't want them to get there before I do. I want what they learn about it to come from me and you. And I want to control that narrative.
Sure.
I want it to be God's design for sex, not the world's design for sex.
Absolutely.
And so the question we get a lot of times is, how soon should we do that? It's really, we have been told by counselors and people who are just really smarter than us in this area that usually between age 7 and 8 or second grade would be the time that you need to explain kind of the birds and the bees to your kids and what happens. We have a great book that we use with all 4 of our boys called Before I Was Born. It's excellent. It has very appropriate pictures, and you just read through the book. And so it's not anything where you're, going to have to figure out what to say. We just read through the book, and then we ask them if they had questions. We believe that you do that together. That's what we did, because we don't want it to, even though we have sons, I want to make sure that they know one day that they can talk with their wives about sex. It's not just something that they talk to guys about. Yeah. That they get to talk to their wives about it. And so if they see us having conversations, and then we've had multiple conversations even around the table once everybody was kind of in the know about that. And so, young kids around that age are introducing biology, that kind of thing. Preteens, you start kind of discussing changes in their bodies, emotional aspects. And then teens, you address some more things like peer pressure, pornography, that kind of thing. Just have open conversations about it. We'll probably do another episode about this, about the specifics of this. But one of the things that we've done that I felt like has been a culture builder is something when they got older where we split them up. If we would have had girls, I would have done something like this with our daughters. But talk about what you do with the boys. Yeah,
so when the boys are, like you said, 7, we tell them a high level, like birds and the bees.
Right.
This is how this works. And it's usually like a, wow, are you kidding me?
Right.
Kind of conversation. But it is age appropriate, and it pulls back the curtain a little bit, because pretty soon, their curiosity is going to come to life. And so that's around age 7. Around age 10 or 11, we do what's called 10-year-old trip. And that is when me and the boy that's turning, 10 or 11 that year, we go away on a weekend trip together. Now, the beauty of 10-year-old trip is that it's not the first time we've ever had a conversation about sex or your body or anything that's going on. We've been stepping up to it, and we told them when they were little, hey, in 3 or 4 years, you're going to go away on a special trip. And we're going to talk about this even more. But it's at that trip where I say, hey, your body in the next couple of years is going to start changing. And everything you think is gross now, or everything you think is strange now, or makes you uncomfortable, all of a sudden your body is going to change and you're going to become interested in it. And I've told every one of them when we're on that trip together, you don't feel this right now. And you might even think it's strange for me to be talking to you about this. But when that starts to happen to you, I'm here to help you, to coach you, to guide you, just kind of like carry you along the way or help you along the way. Because everybody who's been through puberty knows that it is a rough time. Right. It's complex. Your emotions are all over the place for boys and girls. Everything is a mess. It can be, and if you can feel internally. And we just do the 10-year-old trip to say, hey, in a couple of years, guys, you're going to need to know about this. The thing that makes it work, though, is that it's not a one and done thing.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing, it's part of a series of conversations. It's part of, dinner times or just like side conversations, that where we have taken the time and tried to say, hey, there's nothing shameful or wrong about sex or wanting to have it.
Right.
And just talking about it. And if you have questions, it's okay to ask the right person,
Yeah.
That's what 10-year-old trip is about.
I would say for the person who might feel ill-equipped or think, well, I've never really had conversations about sex, and I don't even really talk to my wife or my husband about that. I don't really know how to do that. Why not start today with your kids?
Totally.
And more than answers, they just want to know that it's a safe space for them to come to talk about.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have all the answers for all the struggles that they're going to have. All you have to do is be a listening ear. They're going to find a listening ear.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's right.
And we hope that it's ours. So for sure. All right. So that's sex. What are we going to wrap up with?
We're going to wrap up with technology because that's a hot one. No one ever worried about parenting and technology when I was a little kid. There was not such a thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
it's not an issue. TV was awful.
TV was the worst. Yeah. Yeah. We didn't even have a remote control. No. Literally. How terrible was my childhood to have lived in such an era.
It was amazing, probably.
Yeah, well, anyway, technology, what we're talking about is phones, social media, stuff like this.
Yeah.
We are not experts here.
No, there are tons of experts and resources out there for sure.
Not experts, but overall, I think it would be fair to say that when it comes to phones, especially social media, technology and this hyper connectedness that we have has not been beneficial for kids.
Right.
And why would I say something like that? It is objectively true that mental health, depression, anxiety, and the things that go along with all of those symptoms are higher than ever before in adolescent populations. And we've said that on the podcast before. We talked about kids before. Even things like suicide, the rates of that, it's higher than it's ever been in kids. If you think about, okay, so what's different now than 30 years ago? What's different now than 100 years ago? Different things like that. Part of it, I think, is something about the way we interact with technology and with each other, and the temptation for comparison, the temptation to be lured into a false reality.
Yeah.
It's making us sick in our hearts.
Right.
And I think social media has that. So it's doing that. So we don't do social media until the boys are 18.
Till they're adults.
And it's just like anybody else's kids when, they ask us all the time if they can have it. We say, you can do anything you want to when you turn 18 because you'll be a grown man then. You'll be an adult. You can fight in a war. Surely you could be able to handle an Instagram account.
Right.
But we hold out as long as possible on social media, and then on cell phones. Like we gave Oak a cell phone when he was
pretty young,
13.
13, and he had like this. There was just this like house phone that we used instead of a landline. Yeah. We used it as a cell phone, but the cell phone is our. And it was too early. Yeah,
and we learned with him 13. That's too early, so we waited for 14 with Ezra. And then we waited for 15 with Abe.
Yeah. And if you're worried you're not going to be able to get in touch with your kids, all of your kids' friends will have phones, so you can just call one of their phones. It's going to be fine. You're not going to
Yeah, so we gave our kids phones, but what we learned is that the earlier we gave them, we thought, this is too early.
Yeah.
Just because, they're like us. You and me.
Yeah.
If I've got it to look at, I have to make a conscious choice to say, no,
sure.
I'm not looking at this today. So, and their phones are pretty much bricked.
Yeah.
You can take advantage of the technologies that's available. You can say you can do this app, but not these apps.
Right.
You can do these apps, but not after 10 o'clock at night.
Right.
And not
Phones
before
stay
7 a.m. in the morning.
Night. Yeah. Things like that.
Yeah. And so it's, again, we're not experts. It's got to be different for everybody, but show me a kid whose life is better because they got social media, and they are like, oh yeah, this is the best thing that ever happened to me. I don't know a lot of those stories. I do know that when Oak turned 18,
Yeah.
I said, hey, buddy, we unlocked everything technology for you. You're a grown man now. I'm not going to be policing your phone activity anymore. Go for it. And I do still have him on Life 360, just so I can know where he's at. But I said, hey, this is your deal now. It's up to you. Yeah. You have to make the choices that your mom and I have made for you, but now they're your choices to make.
Right.
And he got all the social media, Snapgram, InstaChat, everything, my face, the whole thing. He did it. And I don't know if this is still true, but after a while, I remember having a conversation with him, and he was like, I'm not super into it. I don't see where it's been good for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he made that choice as a grown man. So that's cool.
So those are just 5 things from our playbook, right?
Yep.
But babe, so where does this all intersect with the gospel? Where would you say this intersects with the gospel?
Okay, so when we were first starting out and becoming parents, the parents and families that we looked up to the most, I couldn't tell you what their specific playbook was, except that I remember that those people that we watched, number 1, they worked as a team. Mm-hmm. And then number 2, they loved their kids with a Christ-like love. The end.
Yeah.
If you work on anything, that comes out of this episode, it was that they worked. The people that were models for us, they worked together as a team, and they loved their kids with a Christ-like love. And now, a Christ-like love acknowledges our weakness. Mm-hmm. We know that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Mm-hmm. So He loves us where we are. We love our kids where they are,
right.
Not what we hope they become, but right where they are. But then also, God disciplines those that He loves. He doesn't just act as if our sinful choices don't have consequences or hurtful outcomes. So what I'm describing in a Christ-like love is a tension of, I love you just the way you are, and I discipline you so you don't have to stay that way. And I want you to become so much more than you are right now. I see in you a beautiful future. If you're talking to a kid, you tell a kid as a parent, I see something in you and I'm going to help bring it out of you. Another way of saying sanctification, the process that the Lord says, that the Lord takes us through. He loves us. Mm-hmm. And we get sanctified, which sometimes feels like discipline or pressure, or we get heated up.
Yeah.
That's a Christ-like love. And the people that have raised up kids who are having some good outcomes, not perfect kids, but kids who themselves grow up and say, yeah, I'm going to serve this community. Right. I'm going to work hard. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be a good spouse. They got there by experiencing what it feels like to watch two people do hard things together and to receive Christ-like love. So
that's beautiful. Well, as we close out today, we want to just ask you, what's your parenting playbook? The listeners, what is your parenting playbook? And encourage you to take some intentional time with your spouse to ask some questions like this. Are we on the same team? Is how we are living now setting up our adult children for a win when they get married? So we're looking at the end in mind. That's how we're acting, with the end in mind. We're not looking at today. How do we get through today? But how do we parent with the end in mind? And then, are we teaching them to be a good teammate? Those are just some questions that might spur on some ideas for you to create your own playbook for your team. So we hope that you enjoyed today's episode. We will see you next week. Together on Purpose.
Together on Purpose. Boom.